Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Exploring Sacred with yours truly. And it is a beautiful Wednesday evening here in the Enchanted Forest. And you can see I'm adjusting my new necklace, one that I purchased at the Gathering Thunder Foundation art sale event. Hey, Katie, how are you? Good to see you. Hey, Tracy, good to have you in the house as well. And so this is a beautiful piece that was actually made by an elder, an Arapaho elder. So I'm trying to take it off here so you can have a look at it. It's very beautiful. Yeah, so I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you that continues to support Gathering Thunder Foundation. Aside from working on the fundraising event for the Mino Ode Gathering, the Good Heart Gathering, today I was able to order firewood for 3 elders, tribal elders, and also propane for a tribal elder. So 4 families headed up by tribal elders were assisted today with firewood and propane. Thanks to all of our wonderful donors. We couldn't do it without all of you, so thank you for that, everybody. The heat fund is being used, and from what I understand, there is quite the blizzard or the snowstorm bearing down on South Dakota. And I was informed that there were elders without firewood and an elder with diabetes that needed propane. So thanks to you, we got that completed today. And thanks to the fundraising event, I've got a cool new necklace that I'm really digging. And I just want to thank all of the Native American artisans that donated their work 100%. 100% of it. I posted a little bit of it today on my Facebook page to give people a taste of what it is that's being offered. And just want you all to know that they were donated 100%. So that 100% of the proceeds from the sale of these magnificent pieces is going to the Mino Ode Good Heart Gathering. It's a beautiful gathering for fasting and releasement, healing, twice a year. So it's a good way to start the show. Feeling really good about all of that. Hello, Katie Battle. It is a beautiful necklace. Nice Arapaho piece. Hey, Connie Vaughter. Good to see you that you are with us as well. Hey, Lady Hawk. Chetawian and Kelly Manson. Good to have you there. Oh, good. Lisa Beldine is in the house. So maybe we can get some really great conversation going again this week, as Lisa really directed our conversation last week, which led into the topic for this week. And the topic for this week is all about spirit, engaging with spirit and overdosing on spirit. It's hard to believe that you can actually overdose on spirituality, but you can. Too much of anything is not a good thing. So with that, we're going to talk about that tonight and anything else that comes up for you that you would like to talk about and chat about. You know how it is on Wednesday evenings. It's a give and a go in conversation here. That's why I do the show, not just to hear myself speak, but so that we can dialogue with one another about what's on your mind, what's on your heart. And that's where we're going to begin. So deep breath in, everybody. And let's do this thing. Hey, Holly. Spirit. Interacting with spirit, finding a spiritual path. I would say that probably if you're watching this show, if you're listening and watching the archive to the show, you probably at some point have found yourself setting out upon a spiritual path, looking for spiritual experience or looking for the answer to the question, what is it all about? Why am I having this experience? Why is this happening to me? Why did my loved one die? When they died, where did they go? Why am I experiencing dreams and situations that I can't explain? Why am I having experiences that are unexplainable to most people. Why are these things happening to me? Why did this illness happen? Why is this breakup happening? There are a lot of reasons why each of us set about finding a path, just like Mr. Baggins in Lord of the Ring. Out for an adventure of the soul he goes, and of course has to go through the trials and tribulations along the way, and finding himself in Mordor, right there in the boiling bubble and trouble and initiations of life. In whatever way the spiritual journey or the spiritual questioning happens, it happens, I believe, for most of us. And along the course of finding our spiritual path, and in the course of finding ourselves within the path, and really coming to realize ourselves, to take a deeper look at our experiences, our belief systems, we can find ourselves in situations that at times can feel euphoric, particularly at the beginning of a spiritual path. Everybody wants to run out and buy as many crystals as they can possibly get, right? Buy as many decks of cards as they can possibly get. And there's just all of this joy and elation around embracing spirit, embracing something that is outside of the norm of what has been, and something that gives us a bit of elation or good feeling. And when does that moment of elation, good feeling, knowing that we're on the right path because our soul is saying, this is the right path, keep walking, keep traversing, keep climbing that mountain, keep diving deep into the interior castle, keep looking and exploring and becoming. When does it go from being that to becoming an addiction? And when does the addiction take us so far that we actually overdose on our addiction? I happen to believe that spiritual addiction is just probably much like any other addiction. When it comes to disrupt our life, our work, our family life, all of those good sorts of clinical descriptions of addiction. How do we know that we're addicted? How do we know when we know that we can no longer stop? We're going to talk about that tonight. And I would like your input into the conversation if we could. Otherwise, it's just me talking. And how fun is that really? All right, let me look. Hey, Kelly Spencer. Hi, Marilyn Lewis. Everything is in perfect order, she's saying. Hey, Lily and Meg. It's good to see you, Meg. Wonderful. Hello, Delgadillo. It's good to have you with us as well. Holly, we will catch you on the flip side. There we go. Janice Francisco, good to see you in the house. And my half side, my husband, Todd Francisco, is in the house. Everybody, how did you first know that you needed to look at something outside of perhaps your family tradition, your religious tradition, your religious upbringing, your scope of knowledge, or what you'd always known in order to seek and find answers to something that was going on in your life, that all of the religious training, the family training, your knowledge couldn't answer? There are many ways that we set about the path. For me, the path always was, and I didn't really know that it was a path. I just simply knew that who I was also included things that other people were not readily or easily or wanting to see, to feel, to hear, to experience. It had always been. And so the experience of interacting with spirit had always been present for me. Had always been present. Having somebody explain to me the presence of spirit, well, that was another thing entirely. And that took me quite a while, as you all know. But walking a spiritual journey, I don't know any other way of walking, because I walk with spirit every day. We all do. We all do. Let me have a look-see here. Tracy is saying, it felt larger than all I was being taught. Okay. Thank you for that, Trace. Catherine Harrison, Lady Hawk, is saying, oh, that just went away. Let me have a look-see here. I love when you all weigh in. Okay, she felt it since she was very young, that for it to be just one way. So you always knew that there were probably other ways of thinking, of believing, of interacting with. Janice Francisco is saying, I was being affected by the energies or moods of those around me. Hey, Sue Shamali. Katie Battle is saying, I felt there was more to spirituality than just going to church. Very good. Meg, will you weigh in on that as well? Any and all of you that are willing to weigh in, I would appreciate that, weighing in on it, helping us to have great conversation. Lisa is saying, raised with a very strict Catholic, but was always turned off by only one God, and everyone else was wrong. Never believed in a punishing God. I knew there was something more based in love. Yeah. All of those questions inside of us, spiritually speaking, begin the ball rolling, looking. Sometimes we have to sneak and look, don't we, at first? Depending on what our surroundings are or who is in our surroundings. Sometimes we have to just like sneak a peek. We can't go like all out there and start to discover the world of Buddhism or Hinduism or any other sort of thing, the world of Islam or various forms of Christianity. Sometimes we have to just kind of sneak it in. And other times when we get tired of just having to sneak it in, right, we toss everything away that made us feel that we had to sneak it in, and we really begin to investigate. Nikki is saying, I never identified with what was taught or written down. There had to be more. I like that. Marilyn is saying, I couldn't believe the Catholic Church's belief that God was a mean God anymore. Exactly. And a lot of times, a few of you have brought this up, the idea of a punishing God, of a vengeful God, is what really makes us begin to look at who or what is God really? Meg is saying, I always trusted and defaulted to whatever other whom I viewed as an authority. I didn't trust me. And then when I hit 49, I started to become comfortable with my own questioning. And while in adoration, my questions of how I was and who God was could no longer be contained in one authority. It was very scary letting go. Oh, it can be very scary in letting go. Thank you for adding that, Meg. Todd is saying, for me, it started out just in knowing there was more out there. Fascinated by UFOs, fantasy books, Tolkien as a kid, and it just grew from there as I grew older. Helps I also had a mom that was always questioning the boundaries and making us think differently about social norms. Yes, which is why me and his mom have been friends for 2 decades now. Hey, Ampe Tuashte Chue. Hello, Del Marie. It's good to have you in the house. We're talking about spiritual path and spiritual addiction tonight, Del. And I know that you know about addiction as a counselor yourself. Connie is saying, just had to find out why I could see, hear, and smell things others did not. Absolutely. Oh, this is good. Sonia, still discovering, but always felt that everything was alive. Even the rock I just tripped over. Exactly. Hey, Suzanne. Suzanne is saying, grew up with a mother who heard spirits talk. That helped me out. Yeah, Connie is Suzanne's mom. So again, having a mom, a parent, somebody that, hey, was already showing the way. Lily is saying, yes, in the beginning of my path, it was a friend who opened my eyes to spirituality. However, growing up Catholic, I knew in my heart there was more. It was all divine timing and that my soul was ready. Yes. There are all certain ways that we come to a spiritual path. And there are also people who are brought to the path by having experiences with mind-altering substances. We began that conversation last week when Lisa asked the question about ayahuasca. And we began a wonderful dialogue with one another. I'm still excited about it, as you can see, about spirit and spirits and how do we interact and why do we interact. Connie is saying, I now know that I am a spirit in a physical body. Yes. Kelly Manson, when I saw my great-grandfather, who died in 1938, standing next to my bed in the middle of the night, I then realized there was more going on than I had ever heard. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you all for sharing those. And the reason that I ask you to share them, and I'm so happy that you do, is because others read what it is that you've written. And I can't tell you how many times people have said to me, you know, Dana, I love watching your show because I read the comments and I listen to the dialogue. And it helps me to understand that, number one, I'm not alone in my experience. I'm not alone in my questioning. I'm not alone in thinking something outside of the box, that there are others who are out there and are willing to discuss and dialogue and share information. So this is wonderful. Marilyn is saying lots of scary things growing up, things moving, noises my mom was always afraid of. When I met you at the Great Lakes Retreat, I knew I found a good teacher. Oh, I love the Great Lakes Retreat. It's always a wonderful experience. Yes, and if it didn't fall, you know, during Sundance season, I would still be teaching at GLR. Kelly Spencer is saying, growing up in a very strict Lutheran doctrine, I never felt comfortable because what I felt deeply, my knowing, just didn't coincide. When I questioned, I was punished and then placed in the outcast and troublemaker category. So sad. Yes, that is sad. That's sad. And that's why you make a wonderful teacher for those around you, Kel. Holly, hey, Holly, you're still here. I remember sitting in church when I was younger and thinking, I think there's more to the story than I'm being told. And I needed to find it. Yeah, I remember thinking that too. And for me, the questions began in catechism. I wanted to know why nobody was talking about the fact that there were people in the catechism class that nobody else could see. Oftentimes, my mom was my catechism teacher. She couldn't see them either. But anyway, nobody wanted to talk about that part. And so as I grew older, finding my path, finding teachers, finding mentors, finding classes that were suitable for me became part of my quest. Part of my quest. For some people, finding the spiritual path because of a spiritual experience or unanswered spiritual questions or religious teachings that make us go, and then want to look outside the box, can lead us to a series of classes, to books, to teachers, to experiences that we don't normally have in what I will just call ordinary circumstances, the 9 to 5, while we're doing our work, while we're grinding away during the course of our day or whenever it is that we work, we're doing our business. We find those experiences in extraordinary places and in extraordinary ways. Meg is saying, yes, Lily, I too at 49, although afraid, knew deep in my core I was ready and had the courage to explore. Yes. Sometimes it takes great courage to explore outside of doctrine or dogma. It really does. And I honor that. My mom was a convert from Lutheran to Catholic. My father, a Catholic. Yes. Yeah, Katie's saying, so she learned from both sides of that. Yeah, Catherine is saying she doesn't want to be trapped in a box. Yeah, for some of us, it's like the fight to get out of the box and to really understand. But going back to the beginning, and I love where the dialogue is going, The first peek outside of the box can be scary. It can be scary for the person who's taking the look outside of the box. It can be even scarier for those around the person who is peeking outside of the box, getting ready to take a leap out of the nest, because they're afraid for where their loved one is going to go in learning new things, in experiencing new things. How many of you have ever heard from a family member, and maybe this might be from some of our older members, I think, Connie, maybe you've talked about this, those times when you were told, don't talk about that. This is not the place, this is not the time, just don't talk about that. Don't talk about that you hear things, that you see things, that you believe that God is female and male. Do not say that right out loud. Don't tell anybody that grandpa visited you last night. Just keep that quiet. And for heaven's sakes, don't tell the priest, the minister, or the rabbi, or the imam. Don't tell them that, or the monk, or the nun. Keep it to yourself. Well, in this magnificent Aquarian age that we're living in, it's very hard for us to keep anything quiet, because we have social media. We have wonderful resources outside of Wikipedia that help us find, that help us search, and brings together all of us. Well, look at this group gathered tonight. All of us gathered this evening in sacred space. I've got candles lit, good vibes going on in this room, and here we all are, literally from coast to coast, east to west, north to south, and across the pond, dialoguing about this. Looking outside of the box sometimes can be like perhaps the first time that you have your first drink, or the first time you have sex and it's really good, or the first time that you get high with drugs. It's euphoric. It feels like freedom. I was talking to Todd earlier about all of this. I bounce ideas off of him as I'm getting ready to do a topic about anything. And I said, I believe that there are people who find the greatest heights, I call it like spiritual orgasm. Some people have anger orgasm. Some people have, there are many ways that people reach the crux of, or a place of absolute euphoria. With some people, it's anger and rage. With some people, it's joy. With some people, it's living on the edge. With some people, it can be sports that take it right to the limit. With some people, it can be drugs and alcohol that take them to the brink and to the edge. And with others, it can be spiritual experiences, ecstatic union with spiritual beings. Well, here's an example. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. Kelly was always told that she was dramatic. Oh, you drama queen, you. Oh, Meg. Let's see, Meg, that's why you're a wonderful teacher. You're a wonderful teacher. Oh, Anna is saying something here. Let me just scooch right down to that. I've always had spiritual encounters and fell into a deep negative depression. And for so many reasons, especially with my health, and I'd questioned my faith until a living, walking angel helped me detox and view life as a daily miracle. Oh, I love that. Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's beautiful. So you went through the dark night and into the light of the day. And sometimes the dark night can include the rushes that come with spirituality. People are afraid of people like us because we do think outside of the box. Oh my goodness, yes. Let me see what Janice, my sister shared with me books by Mary Summer Rain. Oh, there you go. Yeah. And all of a sudden it begins. I didn't really think much about people being addicted to their experiences with spirit until This was many years ago, and I'm just going to share a little story. Need a little sip before I have. My wits about me to share this story. I think some of you will get a kick out of this one. Sometimes I've been known to be Captain Obvious about some things. Last week we talked about my aversion to bubbles of light. Thank you all for giggling along with me about that. And sometimes I've been accused of not being very flowery about things. Well, several years ago, I had a client who repeatedly came to me about the same thing. She came to me over and again about a poltergeist. Actually, it was just kind of a raucous ghost. A poltergeist is something different. She called it a poltergeist, even though I kept saying it really is a ghost. She kept coming to me about this ghost that was appearing in her house and was causing all kinds of drama in her home. In fact, she came to me one time and she literally had burns on her arms from being pushed into a fireplace by this unseen specter. Well, I knew that she had been having ghost problems in her home because I had helped her children earlier with some things that were going on, and I taught them, little children, how to bring about peacefulness in their bedroom from poltergeist activity that was going on. Poltergeist activity that ceased with the young children once I, informed them and empowered them to call upon their guardian angels, the angels of light, to be with them in their bedroom and to clear space for good sleep at night. But the drama continued on with their mom to the degree that she had to go to the doctor for the burns, and she came to me again and again and again about this ghost that was causing havoc in her life. And no matter how hard she tried, this ghost would not go away. Spirit would not go away. It went away for her children. It went away for her husband. It did not go away for her. So probably the fourth or the fifth visit in about this rambunctious ghost, I looked at her and I offered this question. So what is your marriage like? And she looked at me and she said, what has my marriage got to do with a ghost being in my house and a ghost that is being dramatic? And I said, well, what's your marriage like? Do you and your husband interact with one another? Do you argue? Do you fight? Are you passionate together? Do you have fun together? What do you do together? We don't do anything together. We don't talk together. We don't go out on dates. We don't do anything together. He goes to work. I stay home with the kids and I raise the kids. He comes home from work really tired and nothing happens. Nothing happens. I said, so no arguing, no dialogue, no nothing? She said, nothing. I said, well, then would it be fair to say that maybe, and I'm just positing a question, that just maybe your ghost friend provides you with some drama, some passion, some excitement that you're not finding anywhere else in your life. And so maybe you're not really wanting to cut out this relationship with this wily specter in your home. Because maybe this relationship that you've got ongoing with this being, albeit an unseen being for you, is filling something within you that doesn't exist between you and your living partner. And she just looked at me and she said, oh my God, Denise. I never thought of it that way. I am home all day long. The kids are in school. She said, I really don't want to work. So I just stay home and, take care of stuff at the house. And she said, honestly, now that you say that, I talk to this ghost all day long as though it can hear me. And when things happen, I realize that whoever this is, I gave him a name, by the way. I can't remember the name she gave it. It reacts. It might react in a really bad way, shoving me into the fireplace and burning my arms. It may react by throwing something off of the wall or knocking something off of a ledge, but I get a reaction. Oh my goodness, Denise, what's wrong with me? I said, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with you. I think you need marriage counseling. And she looked at me and she said, I think you may be right. Well, some time went by. I said, well, when you're finally ready to break off your relationship with the drama king in the unseen realm, when you're ready, let him go. I think he's being rambunctious because he'd like you to let him go. He's trying to run from you and you won't let him go. He's trying to, find his way home, and he's trapped in your house with you because you're keeping him there for your company. And some months later, she came by and she said, Denise, my husband and I have started counseling. And she said, I would not have believed it if you and I hadn't discussed it. My husband and I discussed it, and we're both very well-educated people. And there's no more activity in the house. I said, so you were kind of addicted to the relationship. And it's easy to have a relationship with somebody that you don't see. You don't have to wash their bookies or clean up after them or feed them or any of that kind of thing, right? And she said, honestly, Denise, I would not have believed it. And it's so common sense. Thank you for bringing common sense to the table. She was addicted to her interaction with this ghost. There are people who are addicted to having ghosts in their home. There are people who don't want the paranormal investigator to help those that are trapped in a place to go home because it causes drama. And there's an adrenaline rush when something goes sailing across the room or a shadow goes creeping overhead. There's an adrenaline rush in that. Did you see that? Did you get a load of that? My place is more haunted than your place. There's an addiction to that. Who suffers from that? Those beings that are being held by the addiction. Just like family members who are held by an addiction, lovers who are held by an addiction, spouses who are held by an addiction. That's one of the forms of spiritual addiction, are those people, I believe, who are addicted to having spiritual phenomena around them. For myself, I would rather just get a good night's sleep. Thank you very much. Without things going bump in the night. That happens often enough. But there are those people who will actually conjure the bump in the night in order for the adrenaline rush, the high. The high. All right. Yeah, Jan is saying we have to find our own families. Yeah. Going to read the comments right now. Oh, hi, Pam Hemis. Catherine is saying, wow, what a flip side. Never thought about that. Well, I just had the feeling that she was very lonely, and whatever spirit she was engaging with was filling the place of somebody. And since she had given him a man's name, I believe it was Gregory, that there was a relationship with Gregory, the poltergeist, as she called him, Gregory the poltergeist. There was a relationship. A relationship was building. And as relationships build, right, they become more passionate. They can become more heated, this, that, and the other thing. They can become more joyful. And so having the conversation with her about something that practical seemed the right thing to do. Hey, Cindy Gray. So we can become addicted to that. And we have to look at why that is filling a void. Why are we wanting that rush over and over again, as it is with any other sort of form of addiction? Where is there an empty place that having that activity, those spiritual beings, I think that many people can feel the presence of spirit, and those that are feeling lonely or alone can really enjoy the company of spirit, whether those spirits are misbehaving or those spirits are behaving. No different than being in human physical relationships with people, then rather than be alone. Well, he only hits me once a week. He only says nasty things to me. She only says nasty things to me when I see her at family events every weekend. They only act up when we can make all kinds of excuses for the relationships that we have and why we have them. Rather than to be alone, we will accept as above, so below, as without, so within, unseen, seen world. I believe most things can be extrapolated into that. Last week when we were all together, we were talking about having spiritual experiences through the means of mind-altering substances, whether that happens to be LSD or PCP, or there are so many of them like that, or ayahuasca or peyote, trying to find a place of euphoria. I call that a spiritual orgasm, trying to find that high, that place with a substance induced. And there are a lot of dangers with that. We talked about that last week. There are dangers not only to our spiritual body, our energetic body, our soul body, but out to our mental, emotional, and physical bodies when we look for those types of relationships with mind-altering drugs to take us into a place of ecstatic union. Ecstatic union, that place of being with spirit so deeply that we are literally outside of our physicality and in our spiritual body, in our energy body, at union with, at one with something that is sometimes euphoric, sometimes frightening. Some people get a thrill out of being scared. What about those ways in which we bring spirit in and people are frightened? I believe that there are people who have ceremony, who have ritual, who invite spirit in to get scared, to be scared. When somebody says, oh, they love horror movies because there's an adrenaline rush, and they go to horror movie after horror movie after horror movie, and all of those movies have to be ramped up in order to provide the same quantity or quality of high, of adrenaline rush. I'm hoping that this is making sense. Lisa is saying, I have a family member that is addicted to spirituality for the attention, to have some sort of fame or to be special, kind of like the TV evangelists. Oh my. Okay, everybody, I'm just going to say you're all my friends. So if you ever see me doing this show and my hair is piled up on top of my hair like this high, and it's like silver and gray and blue and whatever, and my eyelashes are, you know what I'm saying? Please have an intervention. Please have an intervention. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. TV and yes, evangelist personality. To me, intention and integrity is everything. Yes. If I ask you to hand over your social security check, right, and I'm dripping in jewels, have an intervention. I'm just saying that right now, intervention. Okay. Oh my goodness, Tracy. Yes. I'm glad you think I'm funny. Oh my, that's a whole other show, isn't it? Okay. Tracy, you're right. Some people do not come back from those experiences. The ones that scare them out of their body, the ones that take them out of their body, sometimes they do not come back into their body. in order to have a spiritual experience. Years ago, I don't even remember the year that this happened. Mary Zarowitz, if you happen to, you'll probably remember this. Maybe you will remember this. Years and years and years ago, I remember being at a spiritualist gathering. I was just learning about all this stuff, and I was brought to spiritualism. And I was at a spiritual gathering, and somebody made mention that during a circle, a seance, I guess during circle, maybe Connie, you know the wording for this better than I do. There was a trance medium who went into full body trance, left her body so spirit could occupy her physical body. And somebody touched this woman, physically touched her body before she came back into her body. When the lights went on, she was dead. She was slumped over in her chair dead, with everybody in the room in circle looking at her because somebody touched her body. Connie, you probably know a little bit more about that, but I remember the horror and the people that were there that were relaying the story of having been in spiritual circle. And this woman doing full trance mediumship work, leaving her body, making it vacant for spirit to come in. And at the time of the exchange, where spirit has to come back in, that was interrupted. And she did not come back into her body. Some of those same sorts of things can happen when people leave their body and do not come back. There can be an exchange of spirits into the body. The unwelcome walk-in, we'll call it that way. And there are people who simply do not come back from the experience. Yes, Tracy, you are right about that. Mega saying, oh, we so won't let that happen to you. Chue is saying, we'll keep you in line. It's all common sense, everybody, isn't it? It is just common sense. Okay. Nobody should have a wig's worth of hair in their eyelashes. Just saying. Yeah. Cindy is saying, our bedroom is a no-fly zone. No spirit sightings allowed. I love that. No-fly zone. That's great. And so sometimes, how do you do that? Will you share with everybody how you make it a no-fly zone? That's great information to share. So there are those people that are addicted to the drama of things that bring up fear. There are those that love the drama of entering into the twilight zone, those spaces beyond the veil because of euphoria. And there are those people who experience it now and again. And then there are those who will go from one situation to another until it begins to affect their life. It begins to affect their relationships, their work life, all sorts of aspects of their life in negative ways. And not in negative ways just because the family doesn't like the fact that, I don't know what, that you're taking Reiki with Tracy Civic up in Traverse City. Right? Some people have issue with that. That's one thing. What I'm talking about is when spirit all of a sudden has taken over your life, sometimes literally, that can happen, or it becomes such an obsession that every aspect of your life is out of kilter and unhealthy to even you. There are those people that I say teacher hop. They're teacher hoppers. They're like crickets, katydids, whatever, locusts. Sometimes to the teacher, they feel like locusts, but they hop from teacher to teacher. This week, they're taking Reiki. Next week, they're going to take a course in, I don't know, they're going to take a course in Akashic record reading. The week after that, they're going to learn how to channel. The week after that, they're going to perfect the science of working with pendulums and divination. The week after that, they're going to learn about, and the week after that, they're going to learn about, and they cram all of this in almost as though it's a feeding frenzy, a spiritual feeding frenzy. Why am I talking about this? The reason that I'm talking about this particular piece of overdosing on spirituality is everything is good in moderation. Everything, moderation. balance between heaven and earth. I mean, there are people who sometimes they're called Jesus freaks, right? Lots of names for the people that have gone out of balance. They're not walking in both worlds. They're so far ensconced in one world that there is no balance between any of the worlds. They're just willy-nilly here and there without any firm rooting to this human experience that we are having. We did come here to be human. We did come here, I believe, to have human experiences, interactions, exchanges. And when that comes out of balance, either one way or the other, some people are so cerebral that they cannot get in touch with their heart. They cannot get in touch with their emotions. They can't possibly have intimacy with anyone only other than their own brain, their own intellect. That is where they find their greatest love, their greatest addiction is to their own brain and their own intellect. That is also an addiction because it takes us out of balance. The reason that I bring this up is because, like anything, say you do take a Reiki class with Tracy Civic, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. Rather than go from class with Tracy Civic, and let's just say then you fly out to the East Coast and you learn about Akashic record reading with Meg Anutto the next week. And maybe the following week, you find yourself, I don't know, in another modality with somebody else. It is important, the process of integration. The process of integration. The process of preparing. If you are going to go learn Holy Fire Reiki with Meg, let's just say, hopefully you're going to prepare yourself for that. And hopefully after you have taken those classes, you are going to take time to integrate what it is that you have learned. Because we can memorize whatever we want to memorize with this noodle that resides within, the skull of ours, between the ears. We can memorize a lot of things. I know there was one man, his name was Kenny at the newspaper. He had the gift of being able to read, I kid you not, he would go through an entire day's newspaper. And this is back in the day when a newspaper was 70, 80, 90, 100 pages. Kenny could read every single page very, very quickly. And his gift was this. An advertiser would call the newspaper and say, how large was that ad that I ran back in September of 1979? I believe it was when we were having a sale on Barca loungers. The advertising director could say to Kenny, the Art Van people are wondering, when was it that they ran their Barca lounger sale in 1979? How large was the ad and what page was it located on? And Kenny, honest to God, could give the advertising director all of that information. Just like that. Didn't have to look it up. It was all right here. It was a gift. It was a gift that he had. For most of us, I would say, not only do we need to let it soak into our brain after we read something. I'm somebody who will read a page and go back and read it again and read it again. If there's something else that isn't quite clarified, or research. Not only does our brain integrate what it is that we are reading, what it is that we are experiencing, what it is that spirituality is bringing to us through a spiritual teacher, a religious teacher, life itself, spiritual experiences. It's not just the brain. Every ounce of us is drinking in the information. When I speak, when you speak, There's more going on than me speaking words. There are octaves and intonations and information in the words, the way that I pronounce the words, the way that I present the words. Your brain, your ears, your eyes see and hear and one thing. Your spirit is saying, I think I need to sit with what she's saying for a moment. I just need to sit with what she's saying for a moment. I need to be with that. So rather than hop from one class to another, I would say, sit with it, be with it, integrate it, allow your mental body, your emotional body, your spiritual body, your solar body to drink in what it is that you are learning before you go on to the next teacher, to the next subject, to the next experience. I believe allowing yourself to integrate that information, allowing yourself to prepare to receive that information is a great good thing for many reasons. I'm like, oh, so yes, Anna is saying that she was addicted to pain medicine so that she didn't feel the fibromyalgia pain. Oh yeah, there can be addiction to that. Yeah. Unwelcome walk-ins. Oh boy, that's a whole show, isn't it? Unwelcome walk-ins. Del Marie is saying, I did a paper in college and I found that there is a difference between addiction of religion and spirituality and cults. I'm glad that you mentioned the ones who keep people in fear to gain money and notoriety. Oh my goodness. Church hoppers. There are church hoppers too, Katie. Yes. Long time ago, I've left my body, which at first didn't realize what was going on. And once I did panic and I had to claim myself to get back in my body. Oh, spontaneous astral travel. Yeah. Oh, Cindy, thank you for sharing that. Sonia is saying, I do try to learn about different things, but my mind stops me before I can overload. And that is healthy. Taking time to integrate what it is that you're learning, to be with, and to really think about what it is that you need to keep from what it is that you've learned, right? As Carl Franklin always says, use discernment. He always precursors, whatever he's going to say with, always use discernment in about what I'm going to say. Keep with you those things that resonate with your soul and allow anything else to go to the wayside. It's about discernment. Not everything that we need to learn or that somebody presents to us is necessarily for us, but what do we do with those things that need to remain with us? And what if we don't give ourselves time to really think about what it is that needs to remain with us? Janice is saying, a spiritual teacher told me early on to find a healing modality I felt comfortable with and become really good at that one. Right. No, trying out different modalities isn't necessarily bad. I agree with that. Oh, Tracy, that is precious. Let's talk about that. Yes. The old curse breakers out there. We're going to talk about that too. No, trying out different modalities is not a bad thing at all. I think the difference between trying things out until you find one that suits you and just hopping from one to the next, from this high to the next high, and I want to feel that, can be a matter of spiritual immaturity for a student. And it can also be somebody who just likes to hop for the high of, getting a different high from. Right? I'm going to sniff glue this week, and next week I'm going to huff the Lysol can, and the week after that, always looking for the next and best and the greater high. The person who is out looking for a church that suits them, a synagogue that suits them, a teacher that suits them, I think that that's really healthy in not just saying, my parents said that this is how I'm going to be and it's going to be how I'm going to raise my children. I think it's healthy to go out and experience. And particularly, I feel it's healthy when you give yourself time to really think about, not spur of the moment. Well, I'm ready for the next. I'm ready for that. Let's go do that. Denise, I went to your sweat lodge last week. I think I'm ready to do a sun dance. Let's do this. I made it through all 4 rounds. So sign me up for the sun dance because I'm ready to go. Right? There are people who sun dance hop from one sun dance to the next, to the next, to the next. Right, Del? That goes on as well. Del, I want to just read this for just a moment. Yeah. If you are lacking one of the components, always searching for your spirit until you find it. Some people are always and that is a valid point, Del. Some people are searching, they feel, for their soul, for their spirit. And there are times in our lives, and Tracy, I want to talk about the curse breakers. There are times in our lives and things that happen to us during the course of a lifetime that parts of us leave us. They disassociate from us. Sometimes we have to go through soul retrieval. Sometimes we need a really good therapist. Sometimes we need a ritual or ceremony, depending on our background, on our ancestry, our belief system, our way of walking in the world, to bring parts of us back. And for some people, not knowing that when they were exposed to a traumatic experience as a child, a traumatic experience in war, in relationship. Sometimes there are pieces of us that just leave because it's too painful to stay. Too painful to stay. And this part that has left us, that, it still exists within our soul, but just isn't present at the moment. We know something is missing. A lot of times people will say, I'm searching for something. Something in me is missing. Maybe I'll find it at Reiki. Maybe I will find it at Healing Touch. Maybe I will find it at Healing in America. Maybe I will find it at Amadeus class. Maybe I'll find it at channeling. Maybe you'll find it in meditation, prayer, contemplation, nature. But there's a process. And you're right, Shui. Some people begin the process because they know, they can feel something is missing and they don't know what it is because it's based on a trauma that has happened. Again, the addiction in my mind is when our seeking and our searching brings us to a place where we are no longer healthy in body, mind, spirit, and emotions. And we need help in gaining balance, getting back on the Chankuluta, the good red road of balance. Sometimes we fall out of balance searching for the part of us that we know is missing: sex, drugs, gambling, shopping, all sorts of places where we go looking for what feels like a void within us. Bringing ourselves into balance or staying in balance is the key. Finding the place. It's no different than shopping for a doctor or a dentist or a therapist, any of those sorts of things. To investigate where our soul feels a connection is a good thing. Doing that in a balanced way, I feel, is a very good thing. Knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. Thank you for sharing that, everybody. It is such an important topic. Yeah. Like looking for cars. Fun to go trying out different cars, but you don't want to take the end. You like from this sports car and add it to another. Yeah. Yeah. So being mindful about spirituality for the true student of esoteric, it's not to be taken lightly, I don't think. And I don't mean to say that I don't feel there should be joy or laughter. Clearly, I like joy and I like laughter and I like getting goofy sometimes and all of that kind of a thing. There should be joy in spirituality, but there should be practicality in spirituality. And there can be those teachers and those facilitators who overdose on their ego in the practice of. And a lot of times the overdosing into their ego, spilling over into their ego, is providing fear, offering fear, giving fear. To answer your question, Tracy, about those people that offer for $1,000, I can break the curse that I see looming above your head, that I see in your aura for $1,000, I can take care of that for you. I have had more experiences with what I call the mop-up of those situations than I care to count. And I'm going to share 2 stories of this. Meg is saying, there was a woman from Florida, a psychic, who charged women from Martha's Vineyard $1 million over a 5-year period to break curses, etc. for the client. The feds got her because she didn't claim it on taxes. It was just on the news 2 weeks ago. Can you imagine such an abuse of integrity and taking advantage of a client who was in, oh my goodness. I need a sip of water before we talk about that. Everybody, if anybody offers for $500, $700, $1,000, $1 million to break a curse, they are the curse. Really, they are the curse that has come to visit you, and a wonderful opportunity to empower yourself. People who do those sorts of things are despicable in my mind. Now, sometimes there are times when there needs to be an entity removal, an exorcism, those sorts of things. That does happen. I'm not negating the fact that curses do exist. I'm not negating the fact that spiritual entities can and do attach themselves to people. I am not negating that exorcists are real people and that there are times when exorcisms are called for. Not negating any of that. People who offer for $500, $700, $1 million to remove a curse are charlatans, and they are, what do I want to say? Predators. They prey on people who are in a weakened state, and they prey on people sometimes who are just beginning their spiritual path. And they don't know enough about their own power, their own light. They don't know enough about any of it to have enough confidence, assuredness within themselves to understand what is really going on. Case in point. Many, many moons ago, I was in Atlanta at the CNN Towers because I wanted to see Ron Roth. Huge fan of Ron Roth. Me, my friend Darlene, and our friend Lori, we all went, my friend Sandy, we all went to see, well, it was a Hay House thing, one of those I Can Do It gatherings. So there were a lot of people there, but I was there to see Ron Roth, who I believe, and I still believe, was like a walking saint, because I saw this man perform in front of my eyes. Not perform. I saw him be a channel for healings that I never had experienced in my life. He was a very humble man. So I got to meet Ron Roth, and another man that I wanted to meet was Wyatt Webb, who wrote the book, It's Not About the Horse. So those were my reasons for going. Lori wanted to go because she wanted to meet Louise Hay more than she wanted to meet anybody in the course and history of the world. Darlene wanted to go because Darlene wanted to meet Dr. Brian Weiss, the past life regressionist. So we all had our reasons for going. And Lori was very new to the path. Well, CNN Towers is a very large place. And during the course of a break, in one of the mezzanines, I was walking along, looking at things, and I found my friend Lori, sweetheart of a woman, sobbing and shaking and sitting on a bench. And I walked up to her and I said, "Oh my God, Lori, are you okay? Are you all right?" And she said, "Oh my God, Denise, I have a curse. I have a curse." I looked at her and I said, "What are you talking about? You have a curse?" She said, "Denise, a woman just walked up to me and she handed me her business card. Look, I have her card. And she told me that for $500, she would take this curse off of me." I said, "Honey, she's the curse. And where is she? I want to meet this woman." Well, she walked that away. I said, "What'd she look like? Come on, you're coming with me," I said to her. So arm in arm, I said, "We're finding this woman." We never did find her. We never did find her. I called her phone number and I left a voicemail message. She never called me back. But here was my friend at this wonderful gathering of people who was just there because she wanted to meet Louise Hay because she was a big fan of Louise's work. And I only left her for a few minutes and there she was on the mezzanine by herself. And the next thing I know, this woman walks. I said, "Let me at her. Come on, we're going to go find her." We never did find. What would I have done if I had found her? Well, I would have had a few questions and a few thoughts for her. I would share a few thoughts with her about what she had done to my friend, who, by the way, didn't have any curses, one of the most beautiful human beings. Here's another example of that. Another client of mine who is a flight attendant. So she's flying in and out all the time, in and out, different airports going on. Busy, busy woman. Well, this is in your neck of the woods, Lily, because she was between flights. She had just landed at Dulles. And no, was that Reagan? Was it at Reagan? One of the two. And she had gone to get her rental car. She was headed off to her hotel, as flight attendants do between flights. And as she was sitting in her car, you guessed it, a curse breaker knocked on her window. Mary rolled the window down. "Hello, can I help you?" She was a kind person. This woman said, "You have a curse. You've been cursed. For $750, I will remove that curse." Mary, very new to all of this, horrified. She was thinking to herself, well, maybe I did just pick up a curse. I was just out of country. And maybe while I was over there, I picked up a curse. I don't know. You can pick up a lot of things when you're traveling. Why not a curse? She said, "Hold on just a moment." So she rolled up her window and she called me. She said, "Denise, I don't know what to do." She was in a full-blown panic. She told me the story and I said, are you telling me that that woman is standing right outside your car window right now while we're talking? She said, "Yeah, she's waiting for my answer. Will I pay her $750 to remove this curse?" And she said, "You'd tell me if I had a curse, wouldn't you?" And I said, "You do have one. She's standing outside of your car tapping on your window." "No, roll that window down and tell her I'd like to speak to her." So she rolled her window down and she said, "Denise wants it." The woman ran. She ran. I said, "Mary, on your spiritual path, you are going to encounter those people that are going to be your teachers. Some of them, like the woman who was just outside your car door, outside your window, tapping on it, is a teacher. And she is teaching you in opposites. She's like the teaching of the coyote, of the trickster. Everyone is our teacher. What are we learning from them? What did you just learn about this, Mary? Let's talk about it. I didn't want her driving. She said, you don't have time for this. I said, I do have time for this because you're not going to drive under the influence of this woman. So let's just talk about this for a moment. What did you learn? And we talked about it. And again, with both Lori and with Mary, it was a situation where they learned about integrity through somebody that doesn't have any. And sometimes this is where we learn our greatest lessons, is doing the dance with somebody who has no integrity, with somebody who isn't out for anyone's own good except their own. So there are many ways in which we learn. Both of those women taught Lori and taught Mary something in a very painful way. I also happen to believe that the wheel, the hoop, being what it is, all things that we do, there is a reaction, right? What goes around comes around, as they say. And so for the person who perpetuates that sort of a fear, there are things that will come back around for them to revisit. But everything is our teacher. So if somebody offers you that, everybody, never mind about that. Well, yeah, Meg is making a very valid point. Just curious what you would say to these people if you found them, or, here's what I would say to them. I'd say a lot of things to them, and probably not quite this politely, because I really hate people who are abusive to others. Anyway, that's a whole other show, isn't it? What would I say to them? So what sort of a curse are you seeing here? Tell me exactly what you're seeing. And what is your experience with removing curses? Who taught you how to remove a curse? How exactly do you remove curses? And what do you feel justifies $1 million fee to remove the curse? And why, if you are a curse remover, are you walking in a parking lot of an airport? And or as a curse remover, what are you doing walking the corridors of the CNN Tower, preying upon people who are here in a good way? Why are you preying upon these people in this way? You all know I don't believe in doing readings for people in grocery stores, malls, wherever. I just don't believe in that. If Spirit wants me to interact with somebody who is having a problem, they will come to me. They will find me. Spirit always gets us to where we need to be when we need help. I don't have to walk around the corridors of a shopping mall. I don't have to lurk in mezzanines, looking people over. You need a reading from me. Right? I'm certainly not going to tap on somebody's window in a parking garage anywhere. Hey, excuse me, I think you need to have a reading with me. And here's why I think so. No, I'm not going to do that. Yes, so there are many questions. And typically when you begin to ask the hard questions, where did you learn this? What qualifies you? What exactly did you see? How did you see it? How do you plan to help her? And then I've met those people that did pay the $500 or $750, and a month later, oh my God, the curse is back. It's back. I need to do it again. So for another $500, I will take some time to work on this curse. But you know what? It may be quite some time, and it may be quite costly. So I have a sliding scale, honestly. So I have a sliding scale for curse removal. That's a great question that you asked there, Sharon. Yeah. She's saying, that's why I love you. That's why I love you too, Tracy. Well, you know, you've seen me in action up at the Higher Self in Traverse City. It's all common sense. And if we are walking in a good way, if I see somebody else being hurt by somebody's ego, somebody's machismo, their bravado, their ignorance, their self-importance, I have a problem with that. Not everybody does. A lot of people will say, I'm just, I'm only concerned about me. Dana, you just need to let them be concerned about them. Just, pretend you didn't see that. Just don't engage in it. It is not in my nature to do that. It's just not in my nature to do that. Some people would say, well, they needed to learn the lesson. And if they would have put themselves in that bubble of white light, that wouldn't have happened. Well, we all know how I feel about that too. So there are people who OD on their self-importance and their ego in spirit as a curse breaker or a teacher or whatever, or the minister, rabbi, whatever, you know what I'm saying? They teach us. They are also our teacher. We also have a responsibility, just as good human beings. Call me crazy. We also have, I believe, a responsibility to one another, to assist one another when we see those things happening. If I would have found the woman there at the CNN tower, I wouldn't have gone all crazy on her. Any of that, the can of whoop ass wouldn't have come out, but I would have had a dialogue with her and she would have understood immediately how I felt about what just happened with my friend who was by herself. Notice she was by herself. Mary, the flight attendant, was also by herself. Neither one of these two predators walked into a group of people and said, hey, y'all. No, they waited and they watched like any predator, like any pickpocket. My feeling is that they literally picked the pockets of Lori and Mary. They literally picked the pockets because no matter what conversation I engaged with them afterward, I know they were still thinking about it on some level. That's pickpocketing. There are spiritual pickpockets that do that. I think you need to have a reading with me. I think you need to have a healing with me. I think you need to see a shrink. Okay. Catherine is saying, can be as simple as a leader in the workplace. Absolutely. Some people are perfectly fine, again, in this lifetime saying, well, that's theirs. I'm just taking care of me. Okay, that's fine. You can do that. I'm not that way. And I'm the same way when it comes to Gathering Thunder Foundation. You all know that. When somebody threatens the integrity of Gathering Thunder, once it's brought to my attention, done. Once somebody is undermining the stability of Gathering Thunder Foundation, done. If I were to see somebody doing work malfeasantly on behalf of Gathering Thunder Foundation or within Gathering Thunder Foundation, done. Why? Because Gathering Thunder Foundation is helping people most often that are in a condition of needing help. They are in a state of needing assistance. I'm very passionate about that. If we all just did a little something to contribute to that, wherever we happen to be. If we see a friend who is overdosing on spirituality. So did you give yourself time to integrate what it is that you learned? What did you learn from all of that? Why is it that, we can tell when people have gone overboard. We can tell when people have gone overboard if we're close enough to them. There are people who OD to the degree that they lose themselves. They lose themselves to gurus. They lose themselves to master teachers. I do not consider myself a master teacher by any stretch way of the imagining. But there are people who lose themselves to ensconce themselves in a persona, in the teaching of a guru or what have you. Each and every one of us has been given a human body for our soul to experience a human lifetime, a journey. Awakening after awakening after awakening, and opportunities to more fully understand that we are souls having a spiritual journey. And during the course of having this human journey, there are times when parts of us, due to having a human life that sometimes has trauma and drama, leaves us. making us feel as though there's a void, something we need to fill. And we fill those voids in many ways. Sometimes we fill the perceived void with spirituality, with religion. Sometimes we have experiences in our lives that wake us up through illness, through death, through questioning. This just isn't making sense to me. So you're telling me that because she's a Methodist, she's not going to heaven like the rest of us? So you're telling me that 144,000 people are the only folks that make it to heaven? Well, I see that many dead people every day. So I'm pretty sure then heaven's been full for a long time. We're all doomed. Whatever it happens to be, that makes us start to think. And to fill that void of wondering, of exploring. Overdosing is when it is out of balance with our humanity. Having a human experience. My favorite quote of all time, you've heard me say it, was one that was gifted by an elder at Arvo Looking Horse's place at Sundance a couple of years ago, when he was telling the story of getting sober. And not only did his body get sober from drugs and alcohol, his whole personality got sober. He went from being a pretty fun guy to being absolutely stoic and sober. Here's how much fun he was. That's how sober he became. And so when his friends started questioning, well, where did our friend go? It's wonderful that you got sober, that you're back in balance, but we feel like you're really out of balance because you're just too sober. And at that time, an elderly Wichasha Wakan, an elderly holy man, walked up and said, if you wanted to be that holy, you should have just stayed in spirit. What do you mean by that? We came here to have a human experience. We didn't come here just to be holy. We came here to experience being human. Do you know how many in spirit would love to have the opportunity of being human? A whole lot of them. All about balance. It's about being in balance between heaven and earth. It's about using common sense. There is common sense in spirituality. Common sense is what usually brings us out of religious dogma to spirituality, because some of the dogma or the doctrine we're taught doesn't make sense. It just doesn't we just shake our heads. That just doesn't make sense. Usually when we're little is when we'll say, well, how can that be? How can that be? Oh, you're little, you're too young to understand. One day you'll understand. Well, all right, what time is? Oh my goodness, we've gone way over. We all make mistakes. It's how we handle those mistakes. I would like to be like you because I'm Scorpio, but I keep everything inside me. I was having a moment before the show. Scorpio moment, I call it. Oh goodness, thank goodness I'm married to Todd the Taurus. He helps to, now honey, that kind of a moment. But really, it is all about common sense. It's all about integrity. It's all about being in balance. Body, mind, spirit, emotions. And when we feel as though there's something inside of us that something's missing, something's just missing from my life, I don't know where it is. Maybe I'll find it in a tavern. Maybe I'll find it in a bottle of pills. Maybe I'll find it coming through a needle. Maybe I'll find it in a casino. Maybe I'll find it in sex. Maybe I'll find it in the shopping mall. Maybe I'll find it if I take enough spiritual classes. Maybe I'll find it if I sit on a mountaintop long enough. Maybe you'll find it by living your life. Maybe you'll find it by considering that every aspect of our life is a miracle in motion. Maybe it's through finding that every aspect and experience, including the painful ones, yes, is an opportunity to learn more about ourselves, to learn more about our relationship to all things. Just maybe, just saying. when somebody says to me, Denise, when I met you the first time, I thought, really, she can't be a spiritual teacher. She's kind of just like ordinary. I mean, you like to do ordinary people stuff. Yeah, I came here to be an ordinary person. So I do like ordinary stuff. I like extraordinary stuff. I like living. I like living a human life, although I am a soul experiencing this human life. This is one experience I am having as a larger soul. I love that. Yes, I am a person who likes to get every ounce of living out of life. Some people, I tire some people. I tire them right, tucker them right out. I just do. Because I go, 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 go. I love living. I love people. I love life. And it's about remaining in balance. Not to say that there aren't times that I'm not in balance. There are times, but I also know that when I am out of balance, yeah, exactly. There are people looking for it, Lisa. It, quote unquote, it, externally and never finding it because it is internal. Yeah, and Julie, you know what I mean, because you're just like me. You're always living. This morning, there were a couple of ladies over that come to help me here. And we were talking about this experience of life. Her mother died at a very young age. And she said to me, my mother loved life. She was 54 when she passed 3 years ago, and she got every ounce of her life out of her life, even when she was in the hospital bed dying. She was still trying to communicate. She was still living even while she was dying. We're all living while we're dying. Each and every one of us, we're dying to the physical self. Some people are in a perpetual death state. They've decided that they're going to make their death, this life, a great big long death state, the death march through life. And some of us are like, hey, I'm dying, so I better just like live my life. I better honor this human body, this human condition, these human experiences. Sometimes Todd looks at me and he says, let me guess who you met over here. Sometimes I just go off and I'm talking to people because I love talking to people, to hear their story, their human experience. Isn't that marvelous that we have one another? It's a beautiful thing. People have left my Facebook page because they said my humor is off key. While I proclaim to be spiritual and I laugh, I was taught to laugh and cry, not just one, but both. Oh, yeah. I had somebody leave one of my classes many, many years ago, a woman from Germany. Left one of my classes because I got on, sometimes I can be kind of funny. And I was on one of those roles of being funny. And the whole class, we were all just busting a gut together. She left. And as she was leaving, she said to me, I can't be in a class where spirituality is taken so lightly. Well, years ago, I met up with her again. And she had been in this country for a while. And I actually met up with her at a metaphysical store up north. And she looked at me and she said, I owe you an apology. I didn't understand then that laughter is actually really good medicine. Well, being human is really good medicine if you're doing it in balance. Yeah. Kind of funny. You're really funny. Well, some days I can be really funny, but you know, I've been in places where I've been really funny. Call it my alter ego comes out. Where, well, if Laura Smith were on here, she could tell the story. Lily, you were there. Nikki, you were there as well. We were in, was it the south of France? And I was on a roll about something that I found funny. And one of the women that was with us in the south of France got up and left. She left and she went back to her hotel room. She happened to be rooming with a friend of mine. And when my friend went back to the room, she said, why did you leave dinner? And she said, I cannot believe that Dana finds what she was talking about funny. She is a spiritual teacher and she should conduct herself as such. Well, my friend, knowing me, looked at this woman and said, Dana is a human being who happens to teach spiritual pathways, who happens to have some spiritual gifts, and also happens to be, first and foremost, a human being. Take her off of the pedestal that you've got her on. Take her out of the Catholic habit that you have her wearing, out of her saffron robes and out of this, divine light that you've got her dressed in, and understand that she is a human being with her own sense of humor, with her own foibles and faults. She's a human being. And by the way, she's on vacation. And I thanked my friend for pointing that out. And later I did have a talk with this woman. And she said, I did have you on this pedestal. I thought you were above being human. I said, honey, I came here to be human. I didn't come to be above being human. I think that's called being an ascended master. That is not a phrase that I would use, right, to describe me. Yeah. Yes. So, and she said, well, you were laughing about things that I don't find funny. Well, I wasn't making fun of other people. I was making fun, frankly, of myself and things that I find humorous. And she found that, Tracy, to be off color. She found it to be very beneath me. She found my humanity beneath me. We all came here to be human. Okay. Lynn is saying, I love you and very glad I found you on Facebook. You make me feel good inside. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I try to keep it simple, keep it practical, and have some fun with it. Have some fun with it, everybody. With that, next week we will continue the conversation because we're on a roll. Thank you, Lisa, for this roll that we are on. Talking first and foremost about, what is behind the veil? What happens when we go off the, off the charts with what's behind the veil? Addiction to and overdosing on. So next week, we're going to pick up where we left off into the next phase of this conversation. And, I want to thank you for bringing not only your soul here, your light here, but your humanity here so that we can have a discussion. We can have conversation. And with that, everybody, you know what I'm going to say? Let your light shine, as only you can shine it. Because you know what? The world needs it. And Tracy, the world needs your laughter. You keep on laughing. That's right. Laughter is good medicine.